Today we're going to talk about wire splicing. 14, 12, 10 gauge wire usually get connected with a wire nut. Here you see the sizes and colors of wire nuts. Over to this side you'll see specialty wire nuts, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. They start out gray, blue, orange, yellow, tan, red, gray, and blue. The tan is new within the last, say 10 years. It usually was gray, blue, orange, yellow, red, gray, blue. So the tan was a new one set in the middle here. You get the small ones, the little gray ones are like ballast wire, thermostat wire. And you have to go to the box for each one of these, and it'll give you a chart on how many and what size wires or combinations thereof that you can put together inside one of these wire nuts. The blue one, again, thermostat wire, ballast wire. Here you got the orange ones, two different orange ones, two different manufacturers. You notice that they're a little bit different, but they're still the same on the inside. The interior is still the same. Yellows. This is an original wire nut when they started color coding them. Then somebody thought, well, you know what, it'd be better to put the wings on the outside, better grip. Then somebody else said, oh, well, we'll put the wings at the bottom. So it all depends on the manufacturer you get. Really doesn't depend on the inside. The inside is still the same no matter who you get. It's still a spring in there. The tan, we've got one manufacturer who does a tan yellow. So it means that it'll do the same as the yellows, the same as the tans. Here you got two different manufacturers of the tans. The wings on the bottom, wings on the top. Then you got a tan red, which means it'll do everything that the tans will do, everything that the reds will do. Here you got two different manufacturers, or three different manufacturers for the reds. Here's an original red. Then the wings at the top, wings at the bottom. It really doesn't matter. I've used all these. Doesn't make any difference. Here you have the gray. You see how we've got a spring on the inside, and then you've got threads on the plastic to help pull everything up inside. And then I got two different manufacturers of the blue. Wings at the bottom. I find these are a little bit easier on the fingers if you got to do a bunch. These stack a little better into the box, but still hold the same amount of wires. These are made for copper conductors only, and you have to read the manufacturer's paperwork to find out whether the wires need to be twisted before you put them in the wire nut. Some manufacturers say yes, some manufacturers say no. As far as I'm concerned, you should always twist them before you put them in the wire nut. It makes a better, tighter connection. Less chance of you having a wire back out. So this is our different sizes. Now when we talk about specialty wire nuts here, this is a purple one. And you notice that it's dirty because I've had this in storage, but it's got little fins at the bottom. This is a blue one. See the little fins? Both of these are filled with a jelly. This one's filled with a deox or a penetrox. It's an corrosion inhibitor jelly. This wire nut, the purple wire nuts, are actually made for aluminum to copper connections. It's one of the very few ways that you can splice aluminum and copper connection together. So the purple wire nut is for that. This big blue wire nut is for underground connections. It's filled with a jelly that keeps out moisture. So I can splice my wires if they're underground wires, or if they're in a hand hole, I can splice them, put this on them, and I don't have to worry about moisture getting into that open copper connection. This is something new on the market. I personally don't like them. You just strip the wire and stick them in, and it's a stab connection just like the outlets has. It's not a very good connection if you've got a heavy draw on it. It loosens up the spring connection, loosens it up. It's quicker, but we've had many failures with these. So I don't trust them a whole lot. If you had something like a recessed can where the draw is very minimal, they would be probably fine. And then this is a porcelain wire nut. It's made out of porcelain. It's made for high temp situations, like on a stove, an oven. You see it's still threaded, but there's no spring in there. So it'll take high temperatures. So this is what we use for our wire nut situation. Now let's talk about our wires for a minute. We'll put these out of the way. And we'll talk about splicing wires. Here I've got two wires that are stripped out. And you notice they're a little bit longer than what the normal stripping for the hook is. All I need to do is line up the insulation, grab my trusty lineman's, and twist it clockwise. You always have to twist it clockwise. Now I'm going to hold this. I'm going to twist this clockwise. And if you spread these apart a little bit, you actually get a little better grip on them. See, I got a nice even twist. Now the nice part about lineman pliers are, I can take these and use them as a guide. If I cut it right here, I can take my wire nut now, slide it right over. Now see how far up there here I am? See how the plastic goes up under the skirt? This is a skirt of the wire nut. That's what we want. When we turn this wire nut on, we want to make sure that all that plastic is up underneath that skirt, so I have no exposed copper that I can short this out. And always pull on your wire nut a little bit, make sure you got good connection there, and that's a good connection. Nice little twist. I can take this wire nut off if I want to add a wire to it. I can come back, start my wire down here. Run it right into the crease, cut it off, put my wire nut back on. Again, all my plastic is up under the skirt of the wire nut. If I'm starting with multiple wires, let's say I want to put 4 of them together here. I want to make sure that all of those plastic jackets are even as possible. Use my pliers as a guide. Cut it off. Now sometimes when you cut it off, see how it's mashed out? Dress it up a little bit with my pliers. Put my wire nut back on. Done. I come back with one of these wire nuts. See, I get the same issue. I can see down in there, see my wire in there. Now I've got 4 number 14s. I still can use one of these, but see how it doesn't go up in there very well? I've got a lot of exposed wire. That is not a good joint. I take a good chance of shorting this out. So this is like a lot of things with the electrical industry. It looks easy at first. You try it, you're not used to it. The best way to get used to it is go to Lowe's or Home Depot, get a little bit of wire, start twisting it up. When you're done with it, cut it off, strip it out, start over. The more you do this, the easier it'll get. And this is one thing that you'll do a lot in the electrical field, splicing wires. So I highly recommend that you get some wire and try it. Only takes a minute, as you see, but the more you do it, the more it becomes natural. the faster you'll get at it. So I've seen people really struggle with this, and I've seen people pick it up and do it right the first time and never have a question. So keep trying, keep practicing. As you can see, it's very easy. If you got any questions, please talk to your instructor.